I want to give you about half a dozen licks or so inside your BB King box that you can actually put together into a solo, and I'm going to actually do this, put them into a solo and kind of play that for you at the end so you kind of get an idea of what these sound like. So let's dive in. Alright, so in order to find your BB King box, you're going to have to find your root note on your B string. So whatever key you're in, and let's just do this in the key of G. And what I'm going to go do is find my G note on the B string. Now that happens to be on the 8th fret. Now even though we're doing this in the key of G, just for this demonstration, you can move this box anywhere and play in any key. So if you wanted to play an A, you just move it up 2 frets. You want to play an F, you move it down 2 frets. So you can move this box anywhere to play in any key. But in the key of G, we're going to be right here on the 8th fret of the B string. And from here we get this box. And this is our BB King box, but I don't want you just running this box aimlessly. I actually want to give you some real life applications, licks that you can actually play inside here. Now the first thing you need whenever you learn any of these boxes is you need to figure out how I'm going to get into that box. And a lot of times, just because it's easy and I'm pretty lazy and I don't feel like learning a whole bunch of stuff, a lot of times if I'm down here playing in my cowboy chords, so to speak, an easy way to get into this will just be to slide. So I'll just pick any fret, it doesn't matter which one. I'll use my middle finger and just pick any fret on the G string, and I'll just slide up to where I'm on the 9th fret. That's part of my BB King box, and that puts me right here to be able to play around my root note, which is what you're kind of going to want to do, is kind of start, end around your root note. That's going to make your licks kind of sound complete and sound better. Now, one thing that I don't want you to do, I don't want you to sleep on just really simple ideas. So just the simple idea of sliding up can be a lick in and of itself, and yes, I use it all the time to say slide up and maybe just bounce back and forth between those notes. Again, don't sleep on these simple lick ideas. They don't have to be complicated in order to sound good. And in any lick, in any box that you learn, one thing I want you to do is experiment around bending different notes. So for example, this 10th fret here on the B string, experiment around bending that up and then maybe put it together, with this 9th fret on the G string. And experiment around bending this in different ways. You don't have to bend it up a whole step or a half step. A lot of times I like to bend it, to the spaces in between the notes, kind of blur the line between these notes. So a lot of times, I'll kind of just play around bending, bending it, but not really focusing on bending it to a specific note. Now, if you're going to bend it to a specific note, a really cool lick that I like inside of the BB King box is to bend this 10th fret up a whole step, and then I'll put my pinky underneath here, and I'll grab the 10th fret on the E string, hit it, and then bend this back down and go back to my root note. But again, you don't have to play it like that. This is why I say experiment around. This idea is in a lot of Leonard Skinner and Allman Brothers songs. It can be, country as well. Experiment around, different combinations of bending and then hitting that other string. And I realize that a lot of times, for some of y'all this might be difficult because it's going to be difficult to tuck your finger behind, if your fingers are fat. But see what you can come up with, or even play around with bending this 10th fret and then hitting this 8th fret on the E string. That can give a neat sound as well. So just experiment around inside any box, not just this one, bending up and hitting different notes, and you'll find some neat combinations that you like. Now, one of my absolute favorite licks when it comes to the B.B. King box is to bend this 11th fret on the B string, hit it regular, hit your root note, your 10th fret, the 9th fret, and then back to your root note. And I know you're going, Dave, that was way too fast. Well, here's what it sounds like slow, and I'm going to put the tabs up here so that you can see it. That lick, I don't know why, but I absolutely love it. It's worth spending some time, you know, practicing that combination of notes. It's a really neat lick, but a very quintessential B.B. King style lick. Now, another thing that I like to do inside the B.B. King box is bend this 10th fret, hit the 8th fret on the E string, 10th fret on the E string, bend this back and go back to my root note. So real slow, that sounds like this. It's a really neat sound. I'm sure you've heard that in a lot of songs. And then I like to take this one step further and add a note that's not inside of this B.B. King box. So we're going to look at it as a chromatic note. We're going to connect two notes together just using a passing tone. So we're still going to bend this 10th fret here on the B string, and then I'm going to go 8, 9, 10 on the E string, bend that, and then go back to my root note. So real slow, that sounds like this. So another really cool idea, and again, whenever you're playing inside of these boxes, play around with some chromatic notes, you know, walking from one note to another, one fret at a time. You can get some really neat ideas. Again, why I say experiment and play around with this. And of course, like we've been bending this 10th fret on the B string, we can come up and we can bend this 10th fret on the E string as well. And then maybe, you know, kind of walk that idea back down to our root note. So there's a whole bunch of licks right there that I've given you, and let's put on a backing track and see what this might sound like in an actual song. So there's an idea of what these licks might actually sound like, you know, over a simple little blues rhythm. Experiment around with these, play around. I use these licks in blues, country, rock. I mean, you can really throw them into any genre. So I really do hope this helps. And as always, if you need something, reach out to me. I'll be glad to help you.